Israel, kama Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, Kaja Kushima, Wani me kona me waja shong. So Timbuktu, Ghana, Mali, Sumanguru, waja shong. Waja shong. So Timbuktu, Ghana, Mali, Sumanguru, waja shong. Manchester, Sumanguru, Wagwejeke, waja shong. Osetu, Wamasa, Yasantwa, waja shong. Kaja Israel, kama Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan, waja shong. Akwaka, Chuma, Wanye, Afo, Karacha, Akachuma, Wanye, Anunyam Feng. Akwaka, Chuma, Wanye, Afo, Karacha, Akachuma, Wanye, Anunyam Feng. Ameka Minyan Matu, Ameka Onyangotu, Ameka Wanyangwatumo. Ameka Minyan Matu, Ameka Onyangotu, Ameka Wanyangwatumo. Ameka Wanyangwatumo, Wina Chacha, Kachimo, Wabanya, Kaya Sanya Wabawa, Kaya Sanya Wabawa, Kaya Sama, Kaya Danjino, Kaya Sanya Wabawa, Yumababi, Ebaya, what you do, what you need, what you do, what you need, when I do not my baby.
Hi there, my name is Calibos, the only boss with one S. Happy new month to all of you. Welcome to a month of new possibilities. Oh, do you know why life has been made so easy? It's because of Send. People, Send is here to make your life easy if you want to transfer money to Ghana, if you want to transfer from USA, if you want to transfer from UK, Europe, Canada, a lot of places all to Ghana. And guess what? When it comes to Ghana, there's no e-levy charge. So, what are you waiting for? Download Send on Google Play Store and App Store and be ready for exciting offers coming your way each time, every time on Send.
Send. Send more, spend less.
Araba, there are some people at the door. Go and tell them I have traveled to Russia.
Yes, Daddy.
Where's your father?
My father said I should tell you he has traveled to Russia.
Your father has killed me. I sent him money from America to complete my house for me.
Are all student association contributions?
Even the money from the fundraiser for Kweku's surgery.
Oh! He too? Don't be a victim. If you're contributing to a project, alumni dues, or any public campaign, Chango is your best choice. Chango keeps track of all donations and gives you the power to know exactly where the money goes. Chango is approved by Bank of Ghana. Call 0270-066-614 or visit changoapp.com for more information.
Uncle, my father is hiding under the bed.
Oh, Araba.
Chango for your groupings and crowdfunding.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Ghanaian Community Awareness Forum. My name is Nana Kwesi the First, Ghana Union Chairman, and of course, representing the Ahanta traditional area, chieftaincy area. Today is a Samba Day, and as a country, and as a people, and as Ghanaian community, we have a big loss in our midst. And so tonight, as Ghanaians and the Ghanaian community here in the UK, we join our host nation in mourning the loss of our beloved sovereign, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. For many of us living here today, Queen Elizabeth II has been the only monarch that we've ever lived and known. Perhaps it's worth stating that our homeland Ghana, as a country and as a member of the Commonwealth, indeed has equally grown as a democratic nation throughout Queen Elizabeth's 70 long and dedicated years of service to her country, the Commonwealth, and the world at large. I hope you will permit me to suggest that as individuals living here in the United Kingdom, we have all benefited immensely from Her Majesty's steady leadership, and of course, I believe our country Ghana as a nation has and continues to draw strength from our colonial times to date in her leadership. On the death of the Queen, the entire membership of the Ghana Union, its affiliated groups and associations offer our heartfelt condolences and mourn with the royal family and the whole nation of Great Britain, and we pray that her blessed memory remains a blessing unto us all. At this point, I ask all my audience to please join me as we honor the memory of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in a 1-minute silence. May the soul of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and the souls of all our forefathers and our forebearers who stood through difficult times for us rest in peace. Thank you. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Ghanaian Community Awareness Forum. Tonight, we will be discussing a very important topic which all of us, as always, have something to talk about. We've heard it, we've from various sections of the political divide. But tonight we are here to educate, inform, and make ourselves aware of the issues at stake. At this point, I will have to say that this program is brought together by Ghana Union, UK and Ireland, in partnership with Ghana Nurses Association UK, the Western Region Association of Nurses UK, the Ghanaian Nightingale Nurses Association UK, the Ghana Union affiliated groups named and unnamed here, and all audience who throughout the 2-year period have been part of making this forum a success. Please, we will be going through Q&A at some point, and I do ask that you stay within the question that you are asking and go straight to the point. This forum is non-political. We are not here to politic anyone's interest. We are here to listen to varying views across the audience, and of course, from our speakers who will give us all the information that we need to know. The topic today is about Ghana and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, as mostly known to all of us, IMF. As a country, I believe we've been through IMF several times. And this particular intervention from IMF is no exception to those that we've been there over the years. And so there is no saint in this, whether you want to blame a government or person or individuals or leader, there's no saint. From political divide, I think the only people who may be a saint are those who have never won election in Ghana. That can be, we can forgive them for not having the chance, of course, so they may call themselves saint. But for those we know, they have actually held us, at least since 1992 till now, there's no saint. So we are here to take expert ideas, expert views, so that we can all understand what it means in our number of times as we go from one leader or one party to the other. We have key speakers today who, by virtue of their political and other related work within the Ghana as a country, they don't need any long introduction. However, it is worth to say that tonight we have distinguished panelists, and in no special order, our first panelist tonight will be the Honorable Seth Tapa, who is the former Minister for Finance and Economic Planning under the National Democratic Congress of the Republic of Ghana, and also an Executive Director for PFM Tax Africa Network. The Honorable Seth Tapa is here with us tonight, and he's going to take us through all the issues that some of us may want to discuss with him tonight. We also have the Honorable Dr. Mark Asibi-Yeboah, a former Member of Parliament for New Jabin South, a Member of Parliament of the National Patriotic Party, New Patriotic Party, my apologies, from New Jabin South. Dr. Mark Asibi-Yeboah, the Honorable, has been in Parliament, has debated the issues, and has sat through a government who took over from when we were in IMF to a government that came out of it, and now to a government that's gone back to it. So you can see the dynamics. They have all the, all the ideas from when we were there and when we are here. We weren't, and why we are here today. So these two gentlemen will do us justice to the topic, and taking it in turn. Do we have the Honorable Seth with us? If you can, I'm not sure his whereabouts, but we understand he's on travel, but he's doing his best to join us. Yes, he's here with us. Honorable Seth will take us through the first part of the conversation, and the Honorable Dr. Mark Asibi-Yeboah will follow and give us much more, and then we'll be coming to Q&A. So my audience, these are your panelists for tonight, and the panelists, your audience, are here to listen to you. Honorable Seth, you can take over from me if you can unmute yourself where you are, please. Thank you. You are still muted, sir. We need to ask him to unmute.
Yes. Can you hear me now, please?
Yes, you're back live on. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you very much for the opportunity. And I hope that you can hear me clear. Let me make that ensure that first. I must extend my apologies. I'm on the road as you indicated, but I've got a place to sit. And one consequence of that is I was going to make a presentation, but I'm unable to do it now, because I have to use my phone, but that will not compromise my presentation. At the appropriate time, I think I'll be able, to share, with you, the slide and to put some figures to it. So, Honorable Nana, and to cut the protocol short, the executives of the Ghana Union, with which I'm familiar, as well as membership, the union all over, in the diaspora, and I believe some at home at this moment. I will be doing a presentation, and my colleague and friend in Parliament and opponent, not enemy, with whom I work, very well in the Finance Committee of Parliament as a deputy and as minister, will then follow up and give us some context. Let me precede my presentation by drawing an analogy which I normally do. And that is to begin with a household. And we know that one of the pillars household is the household's budget. In other words, daddy's income, which could be a salary, mommy's income, which could also be a salary, and or it could be profits, and vice versa, from doing business. And then we have initially the dependents, who are, the children in the household. And in this context, we can say mommy and daddy are the leaders of the household. Now, the income is very important, and the income can be large or the income can be small. And that gives us the level of income, which is similar to countries. A country's income can be large, a country's income can be small. Or a country can be developed or underdeveloped, or let me rather be politically correct, advanced and developing, which is a continuous process. In between, you have the middle income countries, which is the same as saying middle class, in the context of households. So the capacity of these are the rich, the middle class, and the low income. I wouldn't say poor, but the low income, because even the poor have to manage the little resources that they have. So the basic expenditure will be food, clothing, and other, items. Then as the big family begins to get well, or if it is well to do already through inheritance or some other, it begins to think about initially maybe a car or furniture first, change furniture, a car, move on. That is a signs of affluence begin to come in, move out of rental, and then have your own house, pay the mortgage. In a UK context, I think it's understandable. In a Ghanaian context, you have to save, to do all of this. Now, it gets to a point, rich or poor, where if you are low income or poor, you would normally, as a matter of routine, borrow to supplement the income. Borrow to pay school fees, you borrow, beyond food and beyond clothing. Most of the time you borrow to do many things, as many of us, our parents did, or we are doing, But then the lesson which applies to a nation is that if you borrow in the neighborhood or in the bank and you don't pay, you cannot go back to the neighborhood. You'll be known, you'll be given names. And that's a bitter lesson, as a result of which you may end up with your children being back at home because you do not have the means. But even when you are rich, as I said, you could borrow, and your borrowing in this case would be to buy a car, to buy superior furniture, or the utmost to buy a house. And if you have one house, you may buy a second one as investment income. The lesson still applies to the rich. If you continue borrowing, if you're in business and you are borrowing and you don't pay, one day the business will collapse. So in the one instance, one is borrowing as a matter of necessity. In another instance, you are borrowing as a matter of increasing your wealth. But both are borrowing. And the lesson applies to the advanced country as it applies to a low-income country. Now, the three players in the economy are households, and that's why I begin with the households, who pay the taxes, businesses who pay the taxes, and then government, which is entrusted with the leadership. Down the lane, your children may finish school, and as you retire and you become senile, especially if you sweated and the income still remains low, then they begin to complement. Now, so I have provided a context. Ghana has a budget, the revenue or income, like a household, is taxes. Non-tax revenue, that is fees and charges. And then because we are poor, we get aid. Just as your brother, who is the uncle to the children, who is a bit affluent, may come by and give you some money. In that case, it's grant. It's not loan that you have taken. You can equate it to grant. And you use that to augment, the fees. Immediately you are giving that money, it may come with a warning. This one is for the children's school fees, please. And if you are notorious about not spending it, next time they will ask for the school's number, the school's account number, and they will pay the money to the school directly because they want the welfare of the children. Similarly, as you become a bit affluent and that uncle, that brother notices, the grant will begin to fizzle. And that is what is happening in Ghana as a middle income country. So with this analogy, the question is, where is Ghana today? Or where has Ghana been for its independence period, such that it is always going to that uncle, it's always going to that money lender, it is going to that, institution called the IMF, which has a brother called the World Bank, and has a cousin called the African Development Bank. Usually we mention only the IMF, but in actual fact, it is not just the IMF. Once you enter into a program, the IMF gives you, what you call balance of payment support, which Mark can talk about because he works in Bank of Ghana. I work in Ministry of Finance before I got to the fund and I went back. So I'll stick to the fiscal. But the IMF normally gives what you call balance of payment support to support the cedi because we just spoke about the cedi depreciating and all that. That is usually what the IMF does. But it is the World Bank and the African Development Bank and the development partners, when you are in an IMF program, they are the ones who give you the money for the budget. They are the ones who would give you the money that you need, particularly for your bridges, for your schools, for your hospitals, because you have come to the situation where you cannot borrow again, like we have been locked out of the market. You've come to a situation where the income is not enough, the tax income is not enough, and therefore they take you over the bridge until you can get your house in order. And so when we talk about going to the IMF, it's actually we are going to a number of institutions, which we call the development institutions or the development finance institutions, led by the IMF. They do the program and everything, but usually, as Mark will tell you, when they come around the table, when you are negotiating, are World Bank representatives, there are African Development Bank representatives, there are EU representatives, there's DFID, UK representative. They are all there around the table and listening because they've been giving you money for the budget. and you are not going anywhere. And they want to make sure that you can discipline yourself before they also continue. So to give you an example, one of the main reasons why we went to the IMF, and some of you would have heard it said on social media and others that when I was minister, I also resisted going to the IMF. It's true. Because with oil, we went to Parliament, Mark was in Parliament, and we debated the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, and we said, let's use the oil to change the way we do things. And so I was confident, and we can talk about the things, sinking fund and the rest you may have heard, that if we put these things in place, which is also the things that developing countries, the middle income countries, emerging countries that were once developing also put in place, we could prevail. But what people do not know is that the main reason we went to the IMF, after the program by Dr. Dufour, was that the development partners who were giving us even grants led by the World Bank decided to stop the budget support until they are certain that we have a program. And when they say we want to be certain that you have a program, it can be your homegrown or it can be your enhanced program, talking about the two governments. So long as the IMF does not put its signature under it, they will not give you money. So that's why you have that. So where are we today? Such that we are back to the IMF, despite all these things. One, our revenue is not coming in, either because like a household, some calamity came, you can blame it on COVID with some disputes. You can blame it, but COVID came later. Our revenue has been underperforming, and the highest in terms of GDP, that is your output. That is, that because of inflation, normally we don't use the nominal, we don't use the actual CD, but we express it as a percentage of our output. So just like, and let me explain what it means is, if you compare to a household will be doing well as the proportion of money they spend on food, clothing, and the rest begins to be smaller and smaller. Because no matter how rich they eat, if you are beginning to get money in the thousands and in the millions, food is no longer a major issue. Clothing is no longer a major issue. Even school fees may no longer be a bigger issue. That's when you start thinking about the second house. So our revenue has been stagnant since 2015. It hasn't gone up. Our expenditure, that's the one on which we spend the money, on the other hand, has been going up. And as we know, the difference between your revenue and your expenditure, if your revenue is not enough, it's what you call the deficit. In a household, it is the amount of money which you need to borrow. And it's just like the government. So if the revenue is not enough, right, to pay like a household, then the difference must be made up through borrowing. So we started borrowing, and this is what normally happens. And we borrow, and we keep borrowing. And because we have not changed to put some of the money aside to pay the loan, we keep jumping from one institution to the other, just as you would jump from, first a brother to a cousin to an uncle to a money lender in the community, and before long you are shut out because everybody knows you. I listened to the advert from the beginning. If you are not careful, you will tell your child, oh, please tell them I've traveled. And the child in his innocence will just say, oh, daddy said I should tell you that he has traveled. Oh, when did daddy tell you? Oh, he told me a moment ago, he's in the room. That's a child, right? So when you are exposed, just like, the household, you cannot go to the market. So in the case of government, because we do not have, even in terms of borrowing, Ghana is not like UK, where you go to the London Stock Exchange, and you go and borrow. Liz Truss just said that she's going to, when she says, I'm going to open the taps to help with energy, with this and that, it means they are going to borrow. And they have a deep London Stock Exchange. They have a deep borrowing sources, which they can use, and then later they pay. But the lesson is that when they borrow, they learn to pay, right? The bad habit with developing countries, not just Ghana, is that when we borrow, we do not have a mechanism for payments. And so when people say, let's go to an IMF program, Yes, we go to an IMF program, we generate revenue, which often means additional revenue, like ESLA, NDC, or like e-levy, NPP. I'm giving examples from both ends. You continue going to be borrowing from the same people who are paying the taxes already. That is more taxes. But when the people are fed up with the taxes, then you start increasing the borrowing. But you don't have a mechanism for payment. So in an IMF program, when you want to find a solution, it's not just about revenue. It is also about cutting your expenditure, cutting your coat according your dress according to the size of your clothes, you know, and sometimes it can be very tight. You know, that's the austerity part of it. But the main thing that we also lack is the discipline to put some of the money aside to pay down the loan. And this is what countries like Philippines, Dubai, and others have done. Because once you are paying your loan, the money lender, you become a good customer. The bank, we all know it. Once you are paying your loan, you continue to get more loans, right? And so that is what you call planned borrowing. So you have to make these changes. And those are the changes, you know, which the fund will come and say, if you are not doing this on your own, then we are going to help you. You know, or before we come out with an assistance, just as you go to a bank and the bank says, okay, give me your other bank statements. So these days in the UK, they just get your credit score and everything, and they know everything about you already, unless you are in the dark economy. Before you go, the point will be, they will tell you, okay, you've taken loans, which is 30% of your salary, right? It's 30% of your salary. So what is the guarantee that if I give you a loan, you can pay another 30%, that takes you to 60%. And you have children in school and whatever, because you have filled out, you know, all these forms and it's telling them, and they have an idea, you know, of your expenditure. So they tell you, sorry, we cannot give you 40, we cannot give you 50. We can only give you 20 because experience tells us that if you borrow more than, you know, half of your salary, you know, then you begin to have problems. And that's the experience we have with our workers. It's the same with the country. So they tell you that your compensation, your interest, is taking all your tax revenue. And recently you can see, you know, the furore that came about when it transpired that for Afri-Exim to give us the money, because they know that we are using all the money to on existing loans, what did they do? They decided to collect even their interest, which they will collect upfront. That's the 37 billion. That's the practical meaning of it. You know, and so when you're in a fund program, you have come to that situation. Your borrowing costs have become high. The money lenders, even the money lenders, that's what it means to be in a junk status, moving from a bank to a money lender. That is what your ratings is telling you. It means that your capacity, you know, is similar to somebody who, you know, has no other, you know, means but the last resort. Just as the last resort for the country is to go to the IMF. The last resort is to go to the money lender. I'm drawing this analogy so that we can connect the issues and we don't think that is so extraordinary. Of course, there are the technical parts of it. So you increase revenue. If you want to convince, you take on a second job. And so you go to the bank and say, look, I've got a second job, you know, so my income is still 50%, but when I came to you, it was 100. Now it's 120. So can you top up? If you say it's 50%, can you top up 10? Because now half will be have 120 and half will be 60. You know, so the more you raise revenue and you cut expenditure, then the markets start opening up. But because they distrust that you can do it yourself, even the markets are saying, go to the IMF. It's like you have sat down, you know, let me draw another analogy. It's like you have sat down, you know, face to face with a desk officer who is your assigned officer. You have discussed and he says, okay, as for this request, I'm sorry, I have to take it to the manager. Sometimes the manager will say, if you're a businessman in particular, oh, this request, it has to be cleared at regional level or national level, depending on the size. Sometimes it's not because, you know, they don't think that you can pay, but it's because of your record, because of whatever. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to draw this analogy. During question time, we can answer some specific questions. So the solution then, if you're in such a situation, is either to do it on your own or you'll be forced to go to the fund. In both cases, what do you do? And this is why some of us ask a question. Let us ask ourselves a question. What do we want to do to ourselves as Ghanaians. That is the only way we can exit the fund program. One, we must be serious with the revenue reforms that we have been implementing for 30 years and allow them to mature. Has anybody heard about the UK value-added tax that was introduced in 73, or much later after the EU? Has anybody heard about serious changes to the structure of that VAT? If they do any changes at all, it is just about, okay, certain people are low income, tests and things must not attract VAT, but they would never, go and change the structure of, the VAT. They would not change the structure of the income tax, that came in. They will not change. They don't depend on import duty. But in our case, because we are those so desperate, we are always tinkering with it. So we take part of the VAT, we call it e-levy. We take part, we say straight levy. We take part of excise, we call it ESLA. It has become ad hoc. So one, we must let the revenue institutions mature. The revenue institutions and the taxes they collect, they must mature so that they will provide stable income for the country. Two, we must live within our means. And I cite an example. When President Trump said that he will build a wall, we all remember. That's mighty US. He was asked where will you get the money? In the end, he didn't get all the money. When President Biden said, I would build infrastructure all over the United States, he said, this will result in heavy debt. It will result in borrowing. That's mighty United States with the New York Stock Exchange at their disposal. But the Congressional Budget Office and the rest, in your case is the Fiscal Institute, I think they call it, come out and people trust them and they say, sorry, if you go to this level of expenditure, you cannot pay. And the people listen. They listen to those institutions which are, Congress or even private, like the Fiscal Institute in the UK, more than they will listen to government. So President Biden had to trim, or help by one senator who held everything to ransom, had to trim, the expenditure and keep it within budget. If you raise more revenue, fine. As they expect the economy to grow, you can go back and you get more money. This is what they call unfunded mandates. So we have to start looking at our expenditure, because I'm saying that even the advanced countries whose taxpayers are sacrificing, they are not spending anyhow they like. They are being checked. Their expenditure is being checked. I'm sure you're familiar with what I'm saying in the UK, okay, and the US and everywhere in the advanced countries. These are the examples. So we cannot also just be spending. Their taxpayers will get fed up, and then they will stop giving us the money. When we get a grip of these two things, there's a third thing which we have not been doing very well. And that is, when we borrow, let us learn to pay. And it's in the Constitution. The Constitution says we must have something called a sinking fund, but we've never established it. And when we establish it, we've made it using oil revenue. Now we have dismantled it, just as we dismantled the revenue structure, the expenditure structure, and we spend anyhow. So the sinking fund is no longer working. Why do I say? When we set up a sinking fund, and I must give credit, when we're doing the Petroleum Revenue Management Act and whatever, it was a serious debate. And the opposition then, now the government, were there, and we did most of the winning in the House of the minority, in the office of the minority leader at the time. So why can't we continue? We have a consensus on it. Okay, so the point I'm making is, let us learn to pay down. Let us put money aside. When we borrow, we cannot use everything for consumption. You cannot easily use all your revenue for even infrastructure. You will get the opportunity to go and borrow again. So that's the third thing which, honestly, we have not been doing well. Put money aside to pay down, the loans that you are taking, because the household is practicing it, where you are getting your taxes. The business is practicing it, where you are getting your taxes. How come the government cannot do it? When we do this, then we shall borrow less. And because we borrow from the domestic market, right? Because we borrow from the domestic market, if we borrow less, it means the banks will stop their habit of giving money to government, because they know eventually we will pay with taxes. And they will give money to private business, and interest rates will go down. That is the connection, with the monetary sector. That's the connection with interest rates. That's the connection with availability of credit, in the economy. And then when we do that, And government are disciplining itself, households are disciplining themselves, and they are now content to be paying their taxes. When they have a refund, you pay them. They don't go and come, with all those things. Then the growth will start coming. And when the growth starts coming, that is when, we are able, to be on our feet and we can beat our chest and say that we have also become a middle income country. So I think that I have 20 minutes. Let me pause at this stage. And then, but before I leave, let me say that. So if you look at our figures, you will see all that I'm saying: revenue, expenditure high, revenue low, and all those kind of things. So, Mr. Chairman, let me pause at this stage, and then we can, come in with questions, as we go along. Or my friend Mark will come in and do his. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Setepa of former Minister of Finance for the Republic of Ghana. We now will hear from the Honorable Dr. Mark Asibi Yeboah, who is a former Member of Parliament for Jabin South, to give us his overview of the situation on the ground, as some of it may have been articulated by his colleague, and the new ones that he may want to add to it.
Yes, thank you, and I stand in the protocols that my colleague, mentioned. The topic today is Ghana and the IMF, implications for us Ghanaians and the economy in general. For starters, we are members of the IMF. We actually joined the IMF in 1957. And so it should not be a tug of war whenever we want to enter into a program with the IMF. But the question you ask is, why is there always resistance? And for starters, this is our 17th trip to the IMF for a fund program. So why is there always resistance when there is talk of entering into a fund program? I will simply say that a fund program brings discipline. You heard the Honorable Setepe say that when we borrow money, we have to cultivate the habit of repaying. If you're in a fund program, there is discipline and you don't go wayward. But if this is the 17th time of going to the IMF, and indeed, if we exited a fund program in April 2019, then the question is, what sent us back to the IMF this time around again, as the president directed his Minister of Finance on July 1 to engage the fund? My colleague, Honorable Setepe, said that revenues have been woefully low. As a matter of fact, revenues have been less than 14% of GDP for the longest periods. So every year we project high revenues, but they have never been realized. And that is one key reason why we are back at the fund. For the past 4 years, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, Ghana always accessed money from the international capital markets. We call it locally here, borrowing from the Eurobond market. Now, unfortunately, in January of 2022, Ghana was downgraded by Fitch. And then in February of 2022, before the war started, Moody's also downgraded Ghana. Now, Moody's downgrade was a downgrade to C. We had been at B- and we were downgraded to C. Now, if your credit rating, as you in the UK would know, if your credit score is low, in this case for a country, if your credit score is in the C category, it is referenced as junk status. So if you are in junk status, you cannot go to the capital market technically, because if you go, the rates would be astronomically high. So we couldn't access the capital market where we would always go and pick money. So we had not addressed the revenue deficiencies, but we were always going to the capital market to pick 3 billion. We'll do some refinancing here and there, and then we're sailing through. So for once, following the downgrade, we couldn't go to the international capital market. But expenditures have remained stubbornly high. And as much as the revenues are not coming in, expenditure always remain high. Growth had also reduced, and then our debt has ballooned. As we speak, debt is about 80% to GDP, debt to GDP ratio about 80%. We have accumulated so much arrears, and our deficit is in double digits. So if you ask me, why have we gone back to the IMF? It is because the revenues have not been realized as projected. Expenditure has remained stubbornly high. It has led to reduced growth. The deficit is in double digits. The debt has ballooned. Arrears has been accumulated. We have been downgraded. Our currency this year has depreciated by as much as 30% because there's lack of confidence by market operators in the country. Interest rates today, if you want to buy treasury bill in Ghana, 91-day treasury bill sells at 27%. 182-day treasury bill is at 29%. If you want to deal in the long end of the market, then the government must be prepared to pay 31, 32% before it can borrow. Even the Bank of Ghana itself, its monetary policy rate is 22%. So if you're a bank and you want to borrow money from the Bank of Ghana, it says, I'm lending to you at 22%. Inflation, 31.7%. So it is a no-brainer that we needed help. And so we ran to the fund. Now, what comes with a fund program? And the Honorable mentioned it. The IMF, you go there, the IMF is like the Bank of Ghana for all countries. So if you go to the IMF, they'll give you what we call balance of payment support. So you need some forex to shore up your reserves and then also to meet your import bills. So they'll give you balance of payment support. So if it's balance of payment support that we are going to get from the IMF, how much are we going to get? And is that a reason why we should enter into a fund program? No. Being in a fund program is catalytic, and he also mentioned this. Once you're in a fund program, the World Bank will come on stream, the African Development Bank will come on stream, the European Union, bilateral donors, all of them will come on stream, and then they will support your budget. So going into a fund program is critical for other partners to have confidence in your economy and to support you. Now, so if today we entered a fund program, how much can the government assess from the IMF? Let's do some backtracking. In 1995, when we started our fourth Republican dispensation in 1995, under President Rawlings, we entered into a fund program, 3-year fund program, the Enhanced Structural Adjustment Facility. I'm sure the older folk will be familiar with some of these. And at the time, we could only access $258 million because it's a quota system. Your size determines how much you can borrow. So as of 1995, we could only access 258 million. We also entered into another program in 1999, still under President Rawlings. At the time, we could only access 209 million because in as much as you have a quota, if you have borrowed previously and you haven't paid it off, it reduces the amount that can be given to you. Now, when President Kufuor came in 2002, we entered into another program, but that was the HIPIC program for a category of countries. And that program was debt relief. So Ghana was forgiving about $3.7 billion of debt over a period, but that was a debt relief program under HIPIC. And so if all of our debts, so to speak, was forgiven, we never should have built up debt again as we saw. Now, under President Mills in 2009, we were back there in our poverty reduction and growth strategy that we sent to the fund. At the time in 2009, we could only access $602 million. 602. So we had come from 258 under President Rawlings, 209 under President Rawlings in 1999. By 2009, 10 years later, we could still only access $602 million from the fund. Then we entered another program in 2015, which was shepherded by Honorable Setepe, whom you just heard from. At the time, we got only $918 million. That was 2015, $918 million. So if in 2022, the fund should agree to another program, your guess is as good as mine. I don't see us accessing more than $2 billion. The maximum that we could access, I've heard talk of 3 billion. They could be generous, but I have put a 2.2 billion ceiling.
Honorable, can I please make an interjection, please? Can you repeat those billions and millions you said earlier? In 2009, okay. You had one. Is it billion or million?
I'll go back. I'll go back. I said in 1995.
Yes.
1995, when we entered an IMF program, we got $258 million. 258
million.
Yeah, it was a 3-year program.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went again in 1999. 1999, under President Rawlings again, we got $209.4 million. Now, put an asterisk on the HIPIC one. HIPIC, we got debt relief of 3.7 billion, but that was not a straight jacket fund program, okay? That was debt relief for poor countries. So that was 3.7 billion, but that was debt relief. They were forgiving us our debt, okay? Then in 2009, we got 602 million under President Mills, $602 million. And then again in 2015, we got $918 million, which was given to the Honorable Setepe, $918 million. So I'm just saying that
you took part of it, Mark.
and what are we asking for in 2022?
You see, you don't get what you ask for because it's a quota system.
Okay.
So left to us alone. Now I've heard talk of $3 billion, but I am saying that I don't see us getting more than $2.2 billion. That's just what I'm saying.
Okay. Thank
so
you,
these
sir.
are these are
apologies. You can carry on. Thank you.
No. These will guide. So if we go into the program, what are the implications? What will be the essentials of the fund program? Every fund program is to restore macro stability. Every fund program, the number one ingredient of the fund program will be that the country should restore macro stability. Inflation now is 31.7%. It cannot stay so. So the IMF will tell you that in a fund program, you have to lower inflation, which is 31.7 now. Also, you have to stabilize the currency. The currency has depreciated over 30% this year. It is still weakening. So you have to stabilize the currency so that it will translate into lower interest rates. The fund will say that you have to curtail government borrowing. They will give you a ceiling on non-concessional borrowing. You have to curtail government borrowing. You have to implement ambitious revenue generating measures. We have to see that revenue is coming in as expected. And then you have to cut down a lot of the spending. A lot of the spending you have to cut. So the fund will come hard at you. You have to lower your deficits. Interest rates have to come down. You have to stabilize the currency. You have to reduce inflation, grow the economy.
think we're having challenges with the honorable, but if you are...
Yeah, I'm back on.
Okay, honorable is back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this will be essentials of the program. Yes. But one thing that we have to let our audience know is that a fund program is not guaranteed. As we speak, we announced on July 1st that we're engaging the IMF. All of us have seen that 2 months have passed. Nothing is guaranteed. The fund went to Sri Lanka. They walked away. There was no fund program. The fund went to Zimbabwe. They went back and forth before they recently agreed to a program. So a fund program is not guaranteed. If you don't agree to certain conditions. Now we have to write to the fund, and it's called a letter of intent. I know the good old minister stayed away from the nitty-gritties because he has worked on these firsthand, and so I thought he would have done us some good because this is his 40, if you like. So we have to send a letter to the fund, which will record or detail our intended policies, which would also include a memorandum of the economic and financial policies we want to execute. This letter of intent would spell out all that we want to do. So note, the IMF is not coming to tell us do A, B, C, D. No. We are going to tell them that in order to restore macro stability, in order to generate revenue, in order to curtail spending, in order to lower inflation, these are the things that we think we should do. And we will agree to it. Those are called performance criteria. Performance criteria, it will be in the letter of intent that this is what we want to do. So once they agree to a program and we sign, if we sign, let's say December or January, there will be a first disbursement. That one is free. Once we sign, they will say, okay, that your 2.2, you can take maybe $400 million. But thereafter, if you don't satisfy the performance criteria, the prior actions, the structural benchmarks, they will not disburse. And he knows this very well. They will not disburse. It's a stringent program. You have to adhere to it to restore macro stability because their credibility is on the line and your credibility too is on the line. So data reporting, transparency, everything has to be, you have to come clean on everything. So I don't know if I can continue. I should end here because I see we're almost through an hour, but I think as and when questions come in, we can delve further. And I don't know if Seth wants to add something before the questions come in, but I think I will pause here.
Yeah, Ms. Nana Chairman, with your permission, he spoke about some nitty-gritty. The letter of intent, as he said, is something which you prepare and it's signed by the Minister for Finance and the central bank governor, because you see that when he was highlighting the areas, he mentioned borrowing, interest rate, inflation. You have to bring all those things down under the macro, and some of those are under the governor. So the governor and the Minister for Finance signs that. And then he mentioned what you call the MEFP, which is the Memorandum of Economic and Financial Policy. And that is the one in which you give more expand on the measures that you want to take. So let me take, for example, what is expenditure? During our time, the major expenditure headache had to do with subsidy because of being so, and then single spine, which was leading, if you remember. So what were we going to do with that? So we said we had negotiated with labor at home, Senchi and the rest, and we will pay over 3 years. So what he means by, performance criteria is that the fund says, okay, you say you pay over 3 years, the single spine. If it is 300 million, how much are you going to pay, in year 1, year 2, year 3? Remember, the program is 3 years, so was extended, to 4.5 years. So at the end of the first year, they would find out whether this performance which you indicated as a criteria, you've met it. And this is what you call conditionality. Then you are the one who has looked at your situation, of course, with their help, right? And then you indicate. And that's how the performance criteria come about. The performance criteria is something which you would have to agree. Of course, does the fund know anything? Yes, they know. Let me refer you to the what you call the Article 4, 2021. You can download it, read it. And this is a discussion that the fund has with every member country, whether you're in a program or not. And so if you read that in 2021, just read and see what the fund and the government agree. We were not in a program. Every country, US, UK, they all go as a member under Article 4. You have to open your books, whether you have it. And there's a lot of information there. He mentioned arrears, huge ones, they are there. I can assure you that arrears is about 53 billion, billion Ghana cedis. So they'll ask you, how do you plan to pay this? I want to plan to pay it over 3 years. And while doing it, because I cannot be paying the arrears on existing projects and be doing new ones, you will have a moratorium, on projects. Then this also becomes a performance criteria. And then there will be the prior action are things that you have to do upfront, the critical ones that you have to do upfront. So these are some of the terminology when you see. So you go to the fund and then they ask you, what is the most critical thing? The most critical thing is that we have a deficit today, as he said, because we cannot go to the market. Bank of Ghana, the deficit is 37 billion. By half year, Bank of Ghana, in our own media review, is telling us that Bank of Ghana has financed 22 billion of that deficit, printing money, if you like, or bringing down their reserves. This is also sustainable. So this may be, so you heard about zero financing. So you say that your loss is 5%, and you are financing more than 50%. So what is it? What can you do? This one is so critical that, because remember the fund, the money is going to Bank of Ghana. They don't want to go and use it to be supporting you. This can become a prior action, an action that you have to take to curtail your deficit before even you receive that money upfront, which he spoke about. So when you hear some of the terminology, this is what it means. My other point is quick one. When he talks about quota determines the amount of money you get from the fund. And let's remember that apart from the enhanced credit facility, which the MPP took over, the current government took over, the COVID loan that we went to take was based on our quota. And then the SDR that was given to us was also based on our quota. So our quota has actually gone down with these two loans. And you can say the SDR is our own money, right? You can discuss this later. So our quota has been going down. So Mark mentioned just one, but there are two other ones in the last 2 years. One is tied to COVID, which we have already gone. And therefore, our quota keeps going down. The IMF also, because it distributed a lot of money for both advanced countries and everybody, what the resources that they have is limited. Ghana alone cannot take everything. So I just wanted to make, this additional points, because he spoke about the nitty-gritty, which some of us have been involved in. Thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Honorable. The Honorable Dr. Mark Asibi-Yeboah, thank you so much. The Honorable Setepa, thank you so much. You've all made a very interesting presentation. Some of us have not been privileged enough to know the books of Ghana, so all we hear is one WhatsApp throwing here and there, and we are just, But today, I'm sure some of us would have learned some economics from you. We will take a second break so that all of you can take some glass of water. We will come back. I do encourage all my audience to please raise your hand using the Zoom icon so that we can call you and you can have your questions answered. In the meantime, I have some questions that I will put to the panel, and then hopefully that will kickstart the Q&A session. If you don't get questions from the audience, it actually means that, yes, they're happy with everything you've done. And that would be a good news. So hopefully you wouldn't find yourself being questioned. That would mean that they're happy. So we'll come back after a few minute break. Thank you.
Hello? Oh, my son is Ghana the dada. And then he left go menu. My son, this is a tap. Who was Spain? Oh, yes. Spain was any secret free. Ha, a Ghana. Yet we love you. It's 11 and as a me farmer of a baby farm round. Oh, that be my son. Would you check your phone? Why? It's very easy now to send money from anywhere in Europe to Ghana. I'm in Spain right now, and I just send money to my mom. And on Tiasia, also don't send it, don't take e-levy. No, on tap send, there's no e-levy charge. It's just free when you send. Those in the US, those in London, those in Canada, plenty places in Europe. You can send your money through tap send to Ghana. And please, it's free of charge. There's no deduction in any e-levy or any charge at all. So what are you waiting for? Send the money to those family people. Me must send it. Let's go and take a clan talk. Reggae man of a pack. It's tap send.
Araba, there are some people at the door. Go and tell them I have traveled to Russia.
Yes, Daddy.
Where's your father?
My father said I should tell you he has traveled to Russia.
Your father has killed me. I sent him money from America to complete my house for me.
Are all student association contributions?
Even the money from the fundraiser for Kweku's surgery.
Oh! He too? Don't be a victim. If you're contributing to a project, alumni dues, or any public campaign, Chango is your best choice. Chango keeps track of all donations and gives you the power to know exactly where the money goes. Chango is approved by Bank of Ghana. Call 0270-066-614 or visit changoapp.com for more information.
Uncle, my father is hiding under the bed.
Oh, Araba.
Chango for your groupings and crowdfunding.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for staying through with us, the audience, and for our speakers. Thank you. We are now on Q&A session, where audience will have the chance to ask you questions. This program is broadcasted live on Zoom, Facebook, and of course YouTube. And then we have a local TV station, a well-patronized Ghanaian TV crew called Omega Live TV, who are carrying it live. The program is endorsed by the Ghana High Commission UK and put together in partnership with Ghana Union UK, the Western Region Association of Nurses, the Ghana Nurses Association, the Ghanaian Nightingale Association UK, and all Ghanaian groups associations under Ghana Union, all combined. This is an educative, informative, and of course, awareness program, no politics. We are now at Q&A, and I do kindly ask all my audience to please ask your question devoid of politics and any blame game. As you can imagine, we've been there 17 solid times, right from President Rawlings. And so I think it is fair to say there's no one to be blamed here. We are to be blamed, all of us, Ghana, full stop. Now, I will ask a question. I'm being told Seth has dropped off. I was made aware he's on his travel and his network was not stable. But I believe he will come back. We still have Honorable Dr. Sibi with us, who will go through some questions while, Honorable Seth, I've been told he's back. Okay, thank you. Claudia Newton. Claudia, as your hand is up, I will let you ask your question, then I will put my questions to them at a later stage. Claudia, please unmute yourself if you're still with us.
Yes, thank you very much to our speakers for the enlightening insight into our IMF appearances. I had two questions. My first question, I guess both of them can answer, but based on Ghana's tourism program, I believe it's called the Year of Return. Is it something that was able to generate enough income for Ghana? Because I am aware that lots of, both foreigners and also diasporans went back to Ghana as a result of the Year of Return. And I know that there's still lots of tourism and activities going on in Ghana. So is that something that could actually be a source of income for us to help, reduce how much we're able to depend on loans in the long term? And then my second question is, are there any examples of countries which were, seriously in debt like we are and have been able to recover to the point where they're actually middle income that you think Ghana could take lessons from? Those are my two questions.
Thank you, Claudia. I believe there are two questions and I will ask my panel to deal with it. Please, I do encourage my audience, please don't hide your questions because that's why we have great panelists here.
No, sorry, I'm having issues with my mic.
We can hear you. I don't know if
we can hear you, Honorable.
But I will attempt to answer Claudius. Yeah, we can hear you, said.
Honorable, can hear you.
I'm having issues with my mic.
We can hear you. Maybe you may have to off it and come back again. I think he can't hear us at all.
I'll try and connect. Can Mark take it when I come back?
Oh, yes.
All right.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, as regards Claudia, as regards the revenue generated in the year of return and how much we can make from tourism overall, I think these come to show up our forest reserves. When people come visit Ghana, the money does not come to the government, but then they bring in much needed foreign exchange. So it boosts our forex return. So yes, the year of return 2019, that was awesome, and government intended that it was going to be an annual program where members of the diaspora will come home and then foster relationships, build businesses and all. And so it was a good thing. But you would also recall that we couldn't continue with the program because of the pandemic. The year of return was 2019, and then 2020, there was the pandemic, nobody could go anywhere, and then 2021 similarly. So I think if we develop our tourism sector, much needed foreign exchange will come. Yeah, some countries have been in serious debt crisis in the past, and we can, what comes to mind quickly is Sri Lanka. Recently, Sri Lanka was in crisis. They couldn't import essential medicines and fuel. And if we are not careful, Ghana could slip into the Sri Lankan case. There are countries like El Salvador, Zimbabwe in the past, which have also had serious issues, Argentina. And if you follow some of these things, it's very difficult to come out of such a crisis. But what you have to do is to take the bull by the horn. And if you don't diagnose the problem well, then you can't solve it. So that's why I don't hide facts when it comes to a forum like this. If you are able to diagnose the problem head on, then you can prescribe solutions, which I think in this fund program, if we are prudent and we stick to the performance criteria and all the prior actions and structural benchmarks, we should be able to come out of this. In any event, we were in the fund program in 2015 and we successfully exited in 2019. However, let me make this point. What is different from other programs like and this current program, for instance, in 2015, there was macro instability, exchange rate issues and the rest. But we didn't have a debt problem. In 2015, 2012, 2009, previous programs, that we saw some instability in the macroeconomy. But for the first time, apart from the macro instability and all the issues that I've talked about, we also have a debt problem. And that's a critical matter that we have to tackle head on. So that's my only worry of the current situation in our economy, how to manage our debts and stabilize the situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you, Honorable. I will ask one question or one or two, then I will call on Marie Amwaku Boadu to ask her question. Now, Honorable, if I am not mistaken from the presentations that I heard, we've been through IMF 17 times. Is that correct? If I'm wrong, please correct.
So that will be 16. So this will be the 17. We are not there yet. So if we sign on, that will be the 17th. Yeah.
So why have we as a country not been able to avoid going back for bailout after bailout after bailout 17 solid times, irrespective of party or personality in power? Why is it that Ghana, of all countries with its huge natural human capital, why do we have to find ourselves? How does that make you feel as a member of parliament, former member of parliament? Please, this is your personal opinion. You're not representing the government, so I don't want
there has to be a way forward. And
but it saddens my soul to hear that 17 times.
Sure. When we came out of the fund program in April 2019, I remember government officials saying that never again are we going to go into a fund program. But here we are again. We have to reduce our dependence on aid. It's like a spoiled child. You buy them clothes, shoes, they go to school, and then they just misplace whatever you bought for them. They know that, oh, next time that you get me new clothes, new shoes. So they are not taking good care. We have depended on aid for far too long. We have to reduce our dependence on foreign aid. If we come to terms with the fact that now there's no aid coming our way, then we'll do things as expected of us. We have to promote exports, okay? It is the exports that will bring the needed forests. It is the tourism that will bring the needed forest. So we have to build a healthy stock of forest reserves. It's like your household. You save in the bank. You pick up a second job so that in times of trouble, on a rainy day, you can fall on it. So we have to build up a healthy stock of foreign reserves. We have to reduce our dependence on imports. We have to contain expenditure. That's you in the UK. Tell me, you send your kids to boarding school, high school. Are your kids in boarding school, high school? So does it make sense that we are paying for free SHS, people in the boarding system? Even in the UK, all your kids in high school go to day schools. Even the food that they eat in schools, don't you pay for it?
You pay dinner money, yes.
And you a developing country, poor country, you are paying for everybody to be in the boarding school, the electricity they use, the water they use, the food they eat, free clothing. It doesn't make sense. So contain expenditure. The same things you do in your household, do it for the government. That is what will stop us from going back and forth to the fund.
Right. Thank you, Honorable. Can I ask my please the technical team to spotlight the Honorable set, please? I think he's
I can hear you now. I can hear you now, please.
Thank you, sir. Marie Amwaku, next for you. If you can unmute yourself, Marie. Thank you. Yes.
No, you have muted yourself again.
Mary, you are still muted. Yes, you're now back on.
Fantastic. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Kwesi. Good evening to the panelists as well. So, I mean, only few can doubt that we are living through an era, a rapid era of global transformation. And so what is happening in Ghana, I just have to echo your sentiments, Mr. Kwesi. It is so disheartening. And words cannot express. My question to the Honorable Setstepe is, I've heard you speak on a couple of other platforms, Joy News, etc. I've been listening, I've been following, and tonight you're here with us. I just want to ask, do you feel the government is listening to you? Because you've been there before. You've been there, you've done that, you have the T-shirt for it. Do you feel government is listening to everything that you're saying? And if they are, praise God. If they're not, is it that you're not making any suggestions? Is it that you're keeping your ideas to yourself? What can you do to help this government to begin restoring the economy? And then to Dr. Makasibe, I just want to say kudos to you. Again, I've listened to you a couple of weeks ago. Well done for speaking up, for being bold, for being courageous and speaking up. It's not that easy, our part of the world, when it comes across as if you're speaking the truth against your own government. So thank you for that, Dr. Asibe. And also, I think what I'm taking away from here tonight is that we really need to focus on the debt aspect of this whole scenario. Thank you.
Thank you. At the back of what Mary has just said, can I ask one question to both of you? Honorable said, what was the most single important or difficult challenge that got us and the NDC to go to IMF? And Dr. Mark, Honorable, what is the single difficult reason why we are back again after you rescued us from NDC IMF? And for all you know, how are we going to rescue, who's going to rescue us again? So after you address, Mary's question, can you explain why we went to IMF before 2017, and why are we here now? Is it going to be a recurring every 4 or 8 years thing?
Thank you very much, Anna. Let me just say quickly, snappily, that we have to find solutions to our problems. And incidentally, there are some of us who believe that we can find solutions to our problems, and not be going to the IMF. It will take time, it will take sustainability of policies, but I think I'll give some examples that show that we have the wherewithal. But as to whether government listens to me or not, I can assure you that I don't hold back. And in fact, sometimes even when we were in government, Mark and Bear, I was doing a lot of media briefs and the rest. And one of the charges against me was I was talking too much about government. And I said, it's about transparency. If you want to be a middle income country, tell the country what the problem was. We organized those Senchi and other fora, told the country precisely the problems that we had, got a consensus with which we went into the fund program. I have also said that the NPP does not lack expertise. There are many friends, I don't want to be mentioning names, with whom I served under the ERP, SAP, who have a lot of experience, when it comes to IMF programs and conditionalities and the rest, and who can, together with the NDC, lead the country out of this situation. Let me give specific examples. Mark mentioned the need for us to generate Forex. Now, solution number one, you cannot generate Forex. Particularly, we've heard about non-traditional exports and the rest. Those of you who are into import-export and you are in the advanced countries, most businesses do not depend on their own capability. They depend on export credit and export guarantee. And you have guarantee institutions, you have EXIM banks, you have Turkey EXIM, you have Korea EXIM, China EXIM, US EXIM, and they are all giving us loans. When are we going to establish our EXIM? This gives you the rationale. There is no emerging country, trust me, which has become a middle income country without looking outward, battling out in the international market, but the pillar supporting them in EXIM Bank. That explains the establishment of the Ghana EXIM Bank. Whether they are doing what they should do or not is another question. Two, if you want to build commercial infrastructure, it's not always government that gives guarantee. Right now, the government cannot even borrow. You have to adopt self-financing projects, which we know. So again, solution, Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund. Thirdly, we all know commodity prices go up and then they come down. They go up and then they come down. So when they go up, we are good. Then we tighten deficit if we don't spend and everything. When they go down, then we are left. So countries implement counter-cyclical policies. So what do? When cocoa prices go up, crude oil prices go up, and all that, save some of the money. That is the stabilization fund. When you fall into hard times, then you fall on it. So specifically, let me give specific numbers. When we did the stabilization fund, the first time we took it was during the Kwame Nkrumah disaster. You may have heard me talk about this. We were able to take only $15 million equivalent in 2015. Fast forward, because crude oil prices with one oil field rose and we built the stabilization fund during COVID, we were able to take out 250 million. In fact, we fell on our own money for COVID before we got the COVID loan, 250 million US dollars, which we accumulated from Jubilee. So can you imagine with 3 oil fields, if we had accumulated more, maybe times 3, because crude oil prices have gone up, output has gone up, we would have had 750 million in the kitty if we didn't think that we could finance everybody's education, right? And I'll come to that, right? 750 million is not 1/4 of 1 billion, the 250 of our own money loan that we took. That would have been 3/4 of our own money to finance, COVID, the crisis. And we learned this from the global financial crisis, that we should start building buffers. As I said, this was debated in Parliament. It's in the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. Both parties debated it. Why are we not being faithful to it? Because we are living beyond our means, right? The last example, and I'm giving practical examples to know that it's feasible. I've been saying that we are borrowing and we are borrowing and we are not paying. Sinking fund. Again, numbers. When we established the sinking fund, we had nearly 600 million US dollars in the sinking fund, oil revenue. We had our difficulties. Crude oil prices fell, doom saw and all of that. But we said that if we are going to be borrowing, we must be able to do that. We spent 336 million of our own money taking out the Kufuor bond, the first sovereign bond. 336 million. In fact, we bought it on the London Stock Exchange. What we did was we appointed people, and when the price fell, we bought it. That's what we call the buyback. The NPP came to office. There was 250 million left in that account. They spent 200 million to take off the balance on it, which is 200 million US dollars, using the sinking fund money that we left. Why haven't we been able to, therefore, that is 550 million out of the 250 million. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, with 3 oil fields, if we had continued, wouldn't we have been able to be borrowing and then paying down as the advanced countries do, as London does? When we said this, in a meeting at the IMF, in fact, the then executive director for the UK, who was there in London, right, said we can sponsor, and we sent people to UK, to the debt management office, to learn more about what they are doing when he heard about this initiative, to his credit, right? So we are not without goodwill. I'm giving you practical examples of things which Ghana's countries have done. That is the only way. If you can pay 250 million, next time 750, 500 million, 750, 1 million, that's how you win yourself off the IMF. If you can set up policies to make your yields better and you can finance your own project, like Airport Terminal 3. Terminal 3, we never gave sovereign guarantee. Port expansion, we didn't give sovereign guarantee. What did we do? Like Nkrumah did, we ring-fenced the airport tax. You guys travel. When you come to Accra, you pay airport tax. It's in the tickets. We put that money in Bank of Ghana. And then the projection was done if we expanded and had a 3rd airport. African Development Bank was the lead, and they agreed that once we ring-fence that money at Bank of Ghana, we can build the airport without sovereign guarantee, without taxes. And that's exactly what we did for Terminal 3. That's exactly what we did for the port expansion. And this is exactly, if you want examples, talk about the Dubai Fund. The Dubai fund is our infrastructure fund. We all go to Dubai, we admire it, Singapore. So I'm saying there's nothing wrong with stealing ideas if it succeeded in other places. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So there are practical examples, which we can pick. And if we accentuate that policy, positive, that is how we'll be able to get out of it. Nana Chairman, the biggest problems we faced were threefold. One, Dumso, the stoppage in gas supply from Nigeria. If you remember, when the pirate ship broke, the pipeline for 3 years, almost 3 years, we never had gas. And that is what led to VRA and others borrowing. We couldn't pay the subsidy. That was the biggest challenge. Second biggest challenge was single spike. And then remember, in the background of all of this in 2009 was the global financial crisis that started in 2007, which fell right on the laps of Professor Mills. When he came to office, he started with President Kufuor. And I always say that when it comes to the petroleum revenue measures that we put in place, sinking fund and the rest from the petroleum revenue, to his credit, much of the thinking was started under the Kufuor administration. So it's bipartisan. And we all went to parliament and debated it, as I said. Mark was in parliament, and he will tell you, it is one of the laws that took longest to debate in our history, because Ghanaians said, let's use the oil revenue in a different way. Both parties. And we put all those conditions and things in place. Why are we not applying them? If there is evidence that they help us through stabilization fund, sinking fund, Kwame Nkrumah cycle contingency fund, when the fire and the disasters came, so ladies and gentlemen, I think that we have what it takes. I believe very strongly. Free SHS, as Mark said, and I've always said the same thing. You see, we say almost the same thing. If you have lived abroad, I live in the US, working for the fund. After I left government, working for the fund, came back, and became the place where my child goes to school is in my zip code. And the bus comes, they take them to school. If you want to take them to an elite boarding school, as Eton and other places, you pay, right? But the public schools are good, right? So why do we put everything on? That is our solution. We say that is actually the brain behind the e-schools. Take the school to the district capitals. Train teachers as we did for primary and middle and Kwame Nkrumah and secondary school. Train more teachers, fee paying at the tertiary level, and then we can follow the example. You don't take on boarding, you don't take on every single fee when tuition is already free up to university level in Ghana, right? So I think that if we bring some of these advanced country examples, some of you to complement what we are saying, those of us who have lived outside, I'm glad they brought the toll. Where in the UK you pay for tolls. That's how you pay for your ring roads and all those things. It's from tolls. So why should we, instead of ring fencing the toll money like we ring fence airport tax and the rest to build the roads, like it's done in an advanced country, we say we are canceling it, right? So ladies and gentlemen, these are some answers which I hope it covers some of the questions that have been asked.
Thank you, Honorable. We will now let Dr. Mark, Honorable Dr. Mark, respond to some of them.
I thought you would let some of your.
Okay. If you're happy with what
Honorable said, opportunity.
Yes. Okay. So we have Noel Alote. Please, your hand is next, and followed by Dr. Forikwa. The two will ask your question, then we will let the panelists answer. Then the next panelist to go for the next question will be Dr. Asibi, if he relates to something of his expertise.
Okay, so it's not a question, but it's a comment.
Okay.
Those of us who have lived abroad, sometimes we look at the infrastructures that we have. I live in the UK, so we look at the infrastructures, we look at the governance, we look at the processes, and we want to compare that with Ghana. It took over 200 years for the UK to get to where they are. The infrastructure, talking about senior education, SHS, yes, it was fraught with problems, but I don't think we can point to that as the only reason why things are not going well. There are a lot of Ghanaians who don't pay tax. They run businesses, they don't pay tax. They complain about the government, but they don't pay tax. If the problem doesn't affect them, then it's okay. But if it's affecting them, then they will complain. I mean, we run businesses, we're not transparent. And we don't have systems in the country that will track what people are earning. Policies are made, how to make sure the revenues coming from oil is ring-fenced. Dr. Tepes gave an example. Yes, we can ring-fence these things, but how to track the use and the spending of these monies, we don't have systems to do that. So, I mean, personally, I think the problems we have are multifaceted. It's not just one size fits all. Yes, senior SHS didn't work well, but there are fundamental problems. Our mindset contributing. Is the government innovative enough to open the doors for other people with suggestions to help to develop the infrastructure of the country? Are they willing to listen? It's not just an MPP, it happens with NDC. They come to power. It is only the people they know, they can trust, they put into place. So the problems are multifaceted. As far as the government is not waiting up, giving people the opportunity to speak constructively, constructive criticism, we will be going around in circles. We're going around in circles.
Thank you. Thank you for your nice comment. I'm sure the panelists will make a submission on that when they come to answer. Dr. Ofolikwa, please. Dr. Ofolikwa, if you can unmute yourself.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a comment, not a question. In 1997, I had a lecture by somebody, I won't mention names, somebody who later held a very high office in Ghana. He said at the time that Ghana's economic base had not changed since 1921. And over the years, we haven't seen any change in our taxation system, our money collection system. Tema Harbour leaks like a sieve. And it's not rocket science to block that, to make sure that as much money comes to the state as possible. Now, we have literally given our gold away to foreigners, and they have destroyed our farmlands and water bodies. Those children that are now struggling with free SHS, they are the ones going to pay for the destruction that we have done for the future. There are areas in Ghana that very soon they wouldn't even be able to plant cassava or corn because we've watched and allowed foreigners to destroy our farmlands. We've given our gold away for ransom. So has been oil. I mean, it's for some of us, it's heartbreaking how we have given away our oil resources. And now with electric cars coming in vogue, we have lithium deposits in Ghana. From my conversation with my friends at GHIG, we have already given one away to an Australian company. There are other lithium resources. We need to just we need to do something about our natural resources, not just watching and giving them away for nothing. We need to do something about our natural.
Doctor, thank you. I guess your point is made. There's a question in the chat room which I will want to ask. Is there anything in Ghana that generates income? That's number one. What happened to the mineral resource and the oil? What happened to the mineral resource and the oil? Can free education be reviewed as it is weakening the Ghanaian economy? Without politics, I believe that free SHS is a good policy because as a person, I happen to be in one of the secondary schools that cost a lot of money at the time. And I was looked after by a family member who had 3 children in one of those prestigious, 3 children in 3 prestigious schools, and it was a tight budget for him at the time. So free SHS is good. However, I also one of the people that believe it should be means tested, because like Dr. Honorable said, we live in the UK. We don't take our children to boarding school. It is a privilege if you can afford boarding school like the eating and the rest, or you get a scholarship which is funded. But the rest of us, we are all crossing the road and going to school meetings around our borough. You are lucky if you can get a grammar school in another borough. So why have we crippled our own economy in a broad daylight with something that we know even under Nkrumah, 6 million Ghana population could not do free SHS? Why are we where we are? Forgive me if my numbers are not correct, but I believe something needs to be done if we want to rescue ourselves from this excessive bill that we cannot pay back. And our oil and our gold and every resource we have is eaten into because of one good we are trying to do. I may be wrong. Please forgive me and correct me if I am wrong. I am happy to accept. That's my view. And as expressed in this question, is why I'm making that view.
I think we should not reduce the conversation to free SHS.
Yes.
We've outlined so many things.
Of course.
With the Ghanaian economy, and so I don't think the conversation should go in that direction. I want to revisit the question of a single, one single, no, not a single span. You asked one major reason why
we are where we are.
Yeah, I think Honorable Secretary conveniently, I would say, or maybe he didn't touch on expansionary fiscal policies in election years. If you go back and you look at our numbers, 2008, 2012, 2016, 2020, in every election year, we overspent. Okay? In 2016, the IMF program that he was handling, it derailed. It derailed. Same way. So one of the reasons why we are where we are is the highly expansionary fiscal policies in election years. We overpromise, we overcontract, we saddle ourselves with arrears. And so you would see that after 2008, by 2009, President Mills was back at the fund. Okay. After every major election, we are back at the fund. So those ones, that's why I talked about expenditure containment, especially in election years. Then again, 2017 to 2019, I think the numbers were good. And then, of course, we all know January 2020, COVID struck. And the whole of 2020, economic growth recorded was 0.9, and Ghana was one of the countries that did very well. Most countries recorded negative growth. So we cannot diminish the effect of COVID on the economy. Supply chain disruptions, containers that were coming in from China at about $2,000 per container suddenly went to about $11,000 per container. And then when there's a lockdown in China, you can't import anything. These have really affected the economy. And so the 2020 effect of COVID, I think we have to talk about it. And then again, the war. And energy prices have gone up, and those of you in the UK with the cold months coming, everybody's talking about rising energy prices that are going to kick in very soon. And so some of it have not been our doing, but as I said earlier, we have to reduce our dependence on foreign aid. We have to develop exports critically. We have to build reserves for rainy days. And there are expenditures. We can have a whole discussion on expenditure containment. And I saw in the chat room somebody had put there that we buy V8s for government officials and we pay ex gracias. That is true. How do we rein in some of this spending? Okay, I was a member of parliament. At the end of every term, I was paid ex gratia. Okay. We can say that you get the ex gratia when you are finished. If you do 3 terms, at the end of the 3rd term, that's when, if you are coming back to parliament, you don't have to get the ex gratia. That's fine. But why should it be after every 4 years that you are paid ex gratia? Every 4 years. Yeah, that's how we have run it. So when we talk of expenditure containment, these are some of the things that we have to bring to the fore. If you are a member of parliament, you only get your ex gratia at the end of your term. That's the term in terms of exiting, but not at the end of every election. These are debatable. You talk of V8. I was in the States for a month. I only got back last week. In the neighborhood where I live, everybody was using a small car. And I was telling my friend that those of you who earn high incomes, all of you are using small cars. I wish I used same. But the roads are terrible, you know. So if people have to travel 9 hours to their constituencies in Bodi, in Wale, how else do you expect them to travel? They have to travel in these big V8s that will give them some comfort. People are dying on the roads. So some of these you can stretch, but if I had my own way, I had a V8, a Land Cruiser. When I left Parliament, I've sold it because now I'm not going to my constituency again. So I don't have need for that one. I can move around with a small car. But it's for a reason that members of Parliament are doing some of these things. So we have to contextualize some of these matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you. Noble Martin, please, followed by Priscilla Usu and Michael Techimenson. I want to make sure those whose hands are up can ask their questions. Noble, we can't hear you. If you can unmute yourself. Okay.
Okay, I've done it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Oh, thank you for giving me opportunity to speak. Actually, mine is a comment. My comment was in regards to the free SHS, because I saw some figures that were given by the government, which actually shows that to them, this free HSS is not the key factor in terms of our difficulties. And I've also noted that most of our issues, so far as I'm concerned, is to do with our high import dependency, corruption, tax evasion, and tax avoidance. And the fact that we don't have IDs. So perhaps now that they've started this IDs, single ID system linked to digitization, hopefully, if the next government, assuming an NPP is not there, and the next government comes and continues for another 8 years, I'm sure most of the issues to do with taxation and tracking of corrupt monies can all be picked up. And then we as a country can be looking forward to more improvements, because at the moment, the system is so bad that people were saying that, oh, let's do means testing for children to go to SHS. I'm telling you, if the government were to start it now, it will turn into politics, because we don't have a means by which we can actually assess people's income. We cannot mean test them. That's the truth. They will say it, but the moment you start it, you tend to find that there's no means by which you can track that Mr. X, a girlfriend's son, and girlfriends, wherever. You can't, because people's income is not actually tracked in the system. And a lot of people are taking money and they are not willing to pay tax, as Dr. SB said. So hopefully the next government should continue with what Bawumia is doing. Probably that's the most important thing any politician has done for the country, what Bawumia is doing. And it has to be followed, no matter if NDC, they didn't follow it when Kufuor started it, but this time around, let them follow it. Another 8 years, in addition to Dr. Nana's term, will be enough for Ghana to be in a position where when you take a loan, we can track you. When you are earning income, we can track you. When you are having homes more than your income can afford, we can track you and then come in and see, where did you get this money to build all these homes? Where did you get this money to buy a house for your girlfriend? But we cannot do it at this stage because we can't track each other.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I have to say, because of digitalization, you can now go to Ghana Driving Authority or DVLA, and you have UK driving license, and straight away they can find your information and issue your driving license, which is great. It wasn't there before. So I agree with my brother Noble for that. Digitalization is the future to make sure we can all be found when we go wrong or go right. Osu Priscilla, please. Priscilla Osu, if you're with us,
yes,
please
I am.
unmute yourself.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. First and foremost, what I would say is that before we start chasing the public or Ghanaians to pay taxes and stuff, we need to get the house in order. So unless we have currently, from what I've listened to this, the forum, the whole evening, what has come out of it is that there's lack of accountability and scrutiny of the usage of public funds. So we can't keep on borrowing without having a structure in place that whoever is going to be managing or distributing the funds to various projects, those are monitored and there's a monetary process. At each stage, there should be evaluation of the process. The money that we're issuing out, is the project being done? And what are the outcomes? So unless there is someone we hold someone responsible of taking care of the country's fund that we keep borrowing, there will be no way out of it. The public at this point might not be willing to be paying their taxes. If you're borrowing and they don't know what you're doing with those dollars that we're borrowing, how would you expect me to give you the little tax that I've got? So before you can go chasing a public for their taxes, there should be a structure, that element of it from government side of it. And also a structure then have to be put in place so that the people, a channel whereby the taxes are being paid and they know what the money is being done. For example, we keep giving UK as an example, but I will use it because I pay my council tax, which is 1,200 a year. I know what that 1,200, every bit of it, it goes towards police, it goes towards health and social care, and also how they pick up my rubbish every week, every fortnightly, they'll come for my recycled products. So I know exactly what that 1,200 is doing, how much goes into schools. So the government has given me, this is your bill, and this is how much percentage goes towards the bill. So I am happy to pay for it. Although my daughter is not in a private school, she is in a Catholic school where she gets extra tuition. She gets breakfast, believe me or not, breakfast free. She walks through the gate and there's a fresh bread or fresh croissants at the gate for all the children to have. It's not what's it called, high-end boarding school. It's not. It's just a day school. She goes every morning. I drop her at the gate.
Thank you very much. Which borough is that? Which borough? Because I would love to live in your borough. My kids went to St. Thomas Becket in Greenwich, and we didn't get a toast at the gate for 6 solid years. So I would love to live in your borough, my sister, if I have more. But yes, it's good to say that we need to do more. So there's one question on the forum that I want to ask, and then the panelists can answer. There's a question that says, what can be done to redeem our motherland from bankruptcy? It's simple. What do you men think can be done to redeem this motherland from bankruptcy? Because that's where Sri Lanka is sadly nearing to bankruptcy, if not already.
They are already bankrupt.
Well, okay, Nana, can I come in?
Any of you can go ahead, please.
Yes.
Okay. Our version of bankruptcy, or if you like, coming close to bankruptcy was HIPIC. Our debt was 150 million. It's just that it was forgiven. And so you didn't have to sell assets and things, and your creditors didn't have to come after you. The creditors simply said, put the money back in the budget and use it. And that's the 3 billion, which Mark, mentioned. And that is when we said, or we should say, never again. So HIPIC should be the watchword. I believe we can get out of it if we look at expenditure. And let me say quite openly and frankly and confidently, anybody who tells us that free SHS is not the cause of our problem, it may not be the single cause, but it's a major cause, and we need to find a solution to it. You see, we are politically correct. Once you say something like this, it will be, Setekpa says, stop free SHS, and then it's taken to the villages and everywhere. I went to school based on cocoa scholarship because my parents were cocoa farmers, and everything. Maybe I wouldn't be where I am today. Many of us went to school those days on bursaries and the rest. We are saying the fact that we do not have the advanced structures for means testing does not mean we cannot do what other countries. Let's talk about the emerging economies. Before we even talk about UK or the rest, they don't have, they don't modernize the entire secondary education. And when you say free is tuition. So can we have, and that is why accompanying our educational system, you do not have taxes on textbooks. You do not have, in fact, those things are provided free, right? And then you have to build the infrastructure, right? Right, so that the infrastructure is not just in the cluster of, that cluster in Cape Coast. The infrastructure is not in that cluster in Accra only, but then you can, like in Kuma did with Tamasco Secondary, with the SecTech schools and whatever, which also became second-tier competitive schools where many of us also went and qualified. That is cost-effective. So why can't we do things in a cost-effective manner? That is the point. And this is, let me illustrate. One, when I say we capped, central government took money that should have gone to the local governments, the boroughs we're talking about. That's what capping the DACF to support free SHS. So how do you expect the districts to do something else? Two. You remember the debates a year and a half into 2017 that we should dismantle the Heritage Fund and use it to support free SHS. If you were not under pressure, why would you say you should take the Heritage Fund? Somebody just said that, we are damaging rivers and other things, and we are leaving it for future generations. And you want to take the money, the oil money you are putting aside for that future generation, at least something minimal so that they can use it to do reforestation. If we were not under pressure. Three, Mark was in parliament, and he can bear me. Is it 2018 or 2019 bond? We used 2.2 billion Ghana cedis of that bond to support free SHS. Can you annualize it? Now we cannot go to the markets. Where do we get 2.2 billion? And if you want evidence, please, social media is there and it's telling us this is what happened with free single spine. The truth has to come out, right? Those who prepare, we started our version of school feeding. The women, mostly women who cook in the villages and whatever, they stopped. If the program is not under pressure, why did they stop? If it's not under pressure, why are they not being paid? And how much are we owing them? Is it the 1.9 billion that is in the budget? When the World Bank says that our arrears is 5% of GDP, and in fact, Mark, there is a document which is making the rounds. Pipeline projects are 77 billion. Pipeline projects, 77 billion. 24 billion of this has been paid, leaving 53 billion, and yet in our budget we have 1.9. That is the equivalent of the 10 billion, which you said was an overrun in 2016. It was 11 billion at that time. Today it's 53 billion. And that was a transition to accrual accounting. I don't want to go into too much technicalities. The deficit in 2016 was 6.3. You know very well it was corrected. Yeah, sorry to come into this. It was corrected. It was not 10.3, it was not 8.3. 6.3, which is 1.3% above the 5%. Right? And that is because we decided to take bailout costs. And anybody who tells us again that we're doing well 2017 to 2019, after the IMF corrected the numbers, why didn't we correct them? The deficit was not 5.3, it was 7.2. The deficit was not 4.7, it was 7. So there's something even wrong with the accounting methodology, and it's going to come out in this program. I bet you. So the point is that let's be transparent. Now we talk about mindset and other things. Let me give you another way. We used to do paper. We used to use paper to approve expenditures and whatever. In this day and age, when we did GIFMIS, Mark can bear me out. And it is, I say he can bear me out because it was continuing. I don't know the status now. 2015, we made it electronic. So you, the minister, if you allow your public servants to be spending and overspending, when you hit the limit electronically, you can no longer process any expenditure.
All right,
and I give this.
Honorable, thank you. Yeah. I'm sorry to say that while this debate is getting very interesting, time of 9 p.m. is up. And I would love to see Dr. Mark also giving a submission. And hopefully we can answer the question from the last person whose hand is up, so we can round it up. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much. The point I was trying to make is to give practical examples of things that we can do, which emerging countries and others, just by way of summing up, which emerging countries, not advanced countries, are doing, and they are transitioning to proper middle income status. That's why I'm giving these examples.
Yes, sir.
Countries like the BRIC countries, once upon a time, China, they were poor. These are the measures that they will put in place, and we can also do it. African countries can also do it.
Yes, thank you. Honorable Mark, Dr. Mark, please.
Yes.
You want to react to the comment?
No. To wind up, just to address the issue of if it's something that we can do. Fortunately, we have a fund program, or a fund program is in the offing, and with a fund program, what everybody can be assured of is transparency. So the numbers that Tepe is talking, he's giving out, all of it will come to the fore. We'll know the actual arrears situation. That's why I said there's expenditure overruns in the election year. When the MPP came into power in 2017, we inherited about 11 billion of arrears. He's saying that there's a document making the rounds that arrears could be about 54 billion.
It is the performance report. Go to Ministry of Finance website and download it.
No, I'm not. I don't doubt you, because I had earlier projected about 40 billion. So this is north of 40, and that could be true. With a fund program, and if the implications for all of us is that this is going to be a difficult program, where there's going to be a lot of tightening for us all to do. We can see some increases in taxes on the way coming. That's a must. We would also see the central bank financing of the deficit coming to a halt. The Bank of Ghana says it has done 22 billion. If you take out the SDR, if you like, 15 billion. What's happening is that when we go for auctions, the government doesn't have money to retire maturing bills. So the Bank of Ghana is picking all of this. So the fund will say that you can't do this again. That's going to be tough for us. They will ask us to reform the flagship programs. Whether you like it or not, you have to do some reforms to contain expenditure. I can see them coming again to say that there should be full cost recovery of utility tariffs. The increases that we saw recently, 27%, is not going to lead to full cost recovery. The fund will say that go at full cost recovery. Revenue enhancing measures, expenditure containment. This is going to be a very, very difficult program. And looking at where we are, the inflation numbers, the deficit numbers, to come all the way down over a 3-year period is going to be difficult for us. So let us brace ourselves that things are not looking good, and with all the external forces at play, we have a lot of belt tightening to do.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Our time is up, but as our colleague, his hand has been up for some time. I'm minded to let him ask his question. Michael Techimensin, please. You are the last, please, and I will do one or two things, and we will round off. Michael, if you are still with us, unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, so part very, very quickly, part question, part comment. Question is, I don't understand. I've looked at a lot of Ghanaian budgets over the years. None of them are realistic. We always project to get revenues that we know we're not going to get. And at the end of the year, when they're reading the new budget, they don't go back and just go back and look at what the actual revenues were that were raised. So first of all, we make very, very unrealistic budgets. Secondly, is partly a comment. If you go back in history, through the UK, through to America, through to Japan, through to the South Korean, the Tigers, to China today, every single one of those countries has developed through export-oriented industries. I mean, we've talked a lot about income and expenditure. A lot of people have talked about expenditure, but how do we increase our income? If you take Taiwan, Taiwan's population is slightly less than Ghana's. But if you look at their per capita income, it is enormously, per capita is multiples of us. The reason is that they've chosen certain specific industries to concentrate on that generate funds. And you can look at development plans from South Korea, they're rolling development plans. We're doing things backwards, it seems to me. We don't have, if I want to invest in electronics or there's no backup there. I have a small enterprise in Ghana, right? It's a small, we manufacture, even for me to try and export my products, right? There's nothing available if you're trying to do, unless you do a container or a half container. But if I want to import into Ghana, there's door to door. I can do as small as I want. Look at Japan with its JETRO, the Japan External Trade Research Organization. You can go to any Japanese embassy and you will get specific help just focused on exports. So if I'm in Ghana, if I'm in the UK and I go to the Ghana embassy and I say, okay, I want to bring over some products into the UK, how do I get it consolidated? How do I, these are the kind of things we need to work on our income. That's my basic point.
Thank you. Thank you for your contribution and comment. I will let the gentleman a minute to comment. If they have any comment to add to yours, then we will round up. Doc and Honorable Seth, do you have any comment to Michael's submission?
I will leave it to Seth to wind up. So,
yes, thank you very much. Just a quick one. First, on the tax system. Actually, we have been enhancing the tax system, and Ghana has one of the, the sound tax systems. It's going down. I do agree. If you remember, it was going to be revitalized through the GRA merger of, IRS and VAT service, all those initiatives, single window, which today is ICOMS. What is lacking is to electronic platform for the domestic tax system, and I think that is what's helpful. I think I made an earlier comment that, yes, I do agree. Our best EXIM guarantee in Ghana is cocoa board for cocoa farmers. They bundle the entire, produce, they take credit annually. There should be buffers by now. Yes, it's a weakness, but they are able to sell. And because they have been paying down that debt over a period since 1993, cocoa board was best rated, in fact, cocoa board's borrowing cost was LIBOR plus 2%, whilst government was 6%. Today, cocoa board is going down. We know it. But the equivalent for private sector, which is on the books now, was the EXIM Bank. I mentioned it earlier. There is none of these countries you mentioned that has developed without export credit and export guarantee. And this cannot be put on government budget because it's already sagging. It is a matter of, for example, your electronics, business in Ghana, if it can bundle together with cashew and with the non-traditional exports that we talk about. And like Cocoa Board, the Exim Bank bundles this, and then you have a correspondent bank that will transmit. You are giving a loan, both temporary for importation and exportation. This is the Exim model. This is a guarantee model. And this is the guarantee loan, the Exim credit, model. And that is what was going to be initiated. As I said, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. All we have to do is to, look at what has been successful in other places. And immediately we started it, JICA, Koreaism, and others, all of them who do business with it came. It's about sustainability of policies. If we can break down the politics of one country, it was said by one of your panelists, one government starting something and another government stopping it, I think that's what we need to stop so that the initiatives, right from the Rawlings era, Kufuor era, if we can pick one or two initiatives in each of these and have a consensus and sustain it, I think we will go, a long way. That would be my summary.
Thank you so much. Before you go, the two honorable men, I'm going to read what I've seen in the chat room. You may not have answers to it now, but maybe you can provide answers so that we can share on our platform. So first one is, so from what we have been hearing from both panelists, the free SHS, although is great initiative, was not implemented coherently. It caused more damage than good, in my opinion. That's somebody's opinion. The next one is, it is obvious we played politics with free SHS and now it's sadly caught up with us. That's somebody's opinion. The next one is, what can be done to redeem our motherland from bankruptcy? I've asked that and you've answered it. And then the next one is, then we will certainly be going back to the 18th IMF after 2024 election if we don't check election expenditures. That's somebody's opinion. Why do Ghana as a sovereign nation and its citizens to spend dollars in a country rather than cedis, i.e. school fees, property purchase, and so on? Is there a law on cedis used only in the country? Why is it being implemented? Why is it not being implemented? So somebody thinks we are quoting everything in dollars when we live in humble Ghana with cedis. The next one is, can the IMF save the economy this time? Do we think so? The next one is, why do Ghana as a sovereign nation and its citizens, well, I've read that one, okay, sorry. Why is the government and CSO not actively educating the Ghanaians public on the issues being discussed here? So somebody feel like there's not much education going on. People don't seem to understand the issues at stake. The next one is, why can't the roads be repaired at all? And it's due to corruption and people being greedy. We may not have answer to that at this point. And then the next one is, what can the Ghanaian diaspora do to contribute to solving the country's problem? I think this is one of the most important questions that I think need answering. What can we also sitting here talking and making noise all the time in good faith do to support our motherland? How much has free SHS cost so far compared to the money that has been stolen from the state coffers in the past 10 years? Why do government fail to hold persons who cause financial loss to the state accountable by freezing assets to sell and pay those debts and also jail them? Auditor General's report, why do we fail to block loopholes? So basically, in a nutshell, there are comments there that I can share with the two of you, gentlemen, if you want to provide some sort of, off the record, some sort of written explanation to it. Now, your final comment. I'm mindful of the time, 15:15 already. Honorable Dr. Mark Ashidi, your final comment, please, and Dr. Seth, and we are done for the evening.
Yes, I want to thank the Ghana Union UK for this opportunity. This is the first time I'm following, I've heard about this platform, and I think it's been It's been a nice time sharing our experiences in and out of government. And the Honorable Setepe and myself have had debates back and forth in Parliament, outside Parliament, but we always do this in good spirit and with the love of the country at heart. So maybe today we didn't come here to debate, but he knows how hard to debate some of these issues. But from all indications, we are going to enter into a 17th program. And somebody I said maybe there will be an 18th. We are members of the fund, and so as and when we are in difficulty, we would always call on them. But we have to be disciplined. That's what the fund brings. Anytime we are in a fund program, the economic indicators are good. And when the economic indicators are good, it's inures to the benefit of all of us. If the currency is stronger, if the price level is low, it goes to our benefit. In Ghana now, the price level is so high and everybody is complaining. The currency has weakened, the debt has ballooned. And so I would urge that we take this fund program seriously, and Ghanaians must brace themselves up for a difficult 2.5 years where we are going to see some tax increases, expenditure containment, and some for government ceiling or non-concessional borrowing, and with the lack of access to the capital markets and zero central bank financing to kick in, it is going to be very, very difficult. But in the end, we'll come out stronger and the economy would improve. So I look forward to the engagements with the fund. Next month, I think there's the annual meetings where this would discussions would move forward, and hopefully by budget time in November, there will be some agreements which would be factored in the 2023 budget.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Honorable Seth, do you have any a quick word, please?
Yes, just to complement the 2 points. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Following what Mark has said, it's very interesting and beneficial to also get views. It wasn't just we talking, but we also got some ideas, trust me, which I think has been very useful. I think that the issue of the IMF, we can take it in steps. After this program, we can do what Kenya, of course, today they are also back, but what Kenya and other African countries and other countries do, you do a program with a fund, but you don't take their money. It is called policy support instrument, because they will come and do Article 4 anyway, whether you are in a program or not. So you put out your policies like we did with the homegrown. They can come and comment on it as part of Article 4. You collaborate with them, because IMF has technical expertise. We should not overlook that. They are not just for austerity. It's an institution that is established to help, and they give a lot of technical assistance. We don't have time to go through this. So we can take that first step where we have our own internal homegrown, however you may call it, policy, work with them to monitor, and the World Bank, mind you, I mentioned, and all those institutions, and be guided, and then we can free ourselves. And let me give a practical European example. When you have a problem and it is going beyond your means, you can go to the fund, but then you learn never to go again. And my example is Portugal, Ireland, Greece, and Spain, the peaks during the global financial crisis. They went to the fund, got out within 1.5 years to 2 years. Come COVID, they never went back to the fund. These are advanced countries. And that is, I think, that's what the Asian Tigers did. That's what Colombia and others Latin American states did. And I think we need 5 or 6 African countries that can work together on a transition to middle income program. And then we can also go to the fund as and when, but not as a routine. So I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Honorable gentlemen, it's been a pleasure having you, and your expertise, your knowledge, and the words of experience on the field. It's been a pleasure. And thank you to all our audience. Tonight, our next program should have been 2 weeks from today, which would have been 23rd of September. but by all accounts, it is likely that Her Majesty's funeral will take place before or within this period. And so our next program has been postponed to the 7th of October. Details will be sent to you via Zoom, social media, and you will have it and the topic. It's been a pleasure having all of you. Please let us all join hands to celebrate the good of our people and the expertise we get from Ghanaian economy and the political field and everywhere that we get all this knowledge. My Honorable Dr. Makasibi, thank you for your time, knowing very well that you just returned from a long trip and devoting this time to be with me. Honorable Setapa, thank you. I know you are on your route to somewhere in the United States and you have to stop over somewhere to be with us. Thank you so much for your time. The audience, thank you for joining us, and to Paul and Linda at the IT room for getting this through together and making sure we can broadcast to you live. Until same time, till the 7th of October, Ghana Union and Ghanaian Community Awareness. Thank you very much. With all our partners and all our sponsors, thank you for the time. Stay safe and be well. Good night.
Good night.
Hello? Oh, my son is Canada Dada. And then he left home, menu. My son, this is a setup. You was Spain, oh yes. Spain was any secret free, huh? I call Ghana. Yet we love you. It's 11 and as a man from over baby from around. Oh, that be my son, would you check your phone? Why? It's very easy now to send money from anywhere in Europe to Ghana. I'm in Spain right now, and I just send money to my mom. And on TSC, also, don't send it, don't take e-levy. No, on Tap Send, there's no e-levy charge. It's just free when you send. Those in the US, those in London, those in Canada, plenty places in Europe. You can send your money through Tap Send to Ghana. And please, it's free of charge. There's no deduction in any e-levy or any charge at all. So what are you waiting for? Send the money to those family people. Me must send it. Let's go and take a clan talk. Reggae man of a pack. It's Tap Send.
At Diaspora Insurance, we understand the importance of dignified send-offs within Ghanaian culture and traditions. We also understand that you want to avoid the double trauma of your family grieving and not having the financial support to cover funeral expenses when you're not around. With our Diaspora Funeral Cash Plan, you can now cover yourself or your family in Ghana or abroad. With no medicals required, we'll accept you if you are under 75 years. Visit our website today or call us to complete a simple form in under 5 minutes. With Diaspora Insurance, your peace of mind is guaranteed.
Araba, there are some people at the door. Go and tell them I have traveled to Russia.
Yes, Daddy.
Where's your father?
My father said I should tell you he has traveled to Russia.
Your father has killed me. I sent him money from America to complete my house for me.
Are all student association contributions?
Even the money from the fundraiser for Kweku's surgery.
Oh! Too? Don't be a victim. If you're contributing to a project, alumni dues, or any public campaign, Chango is your best choice. Chango keeps track of all donations and gives you the power to know exactly where the money goes. Chango is approved by Bank of Ghana. Call 0270-066-614 or visit changoapp.com for more information.
Uncle, my father is hiding under the bed.
Oh, Araba.
Chango for your groupings and crowdfunding.